The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf.
This deployment that we have with Bell in the Bell data center with Cohere is 5 megawatts, and that's expected to throw off over 70 million a year. Well, if the site in Sweden was 25 megawatts, it would be 5x that. So it would be 350 million a year, potentially, of ARR if you filled it with GPUs.
All right, welcome back inside our Proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Aydin Kilic. He's the CEO of HIVE Digital Technologies. And Aydin, good to see you again. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I just got off a plane from Europe. I just landed back in Vancouver, and 2 big press releases for HIVE that came out overnight. So we have huge news, the deal where HIVE's Buzz is signed with Cohere now and Bell for a 3-year, $220 million total contract value GPU cloud agreement. So super excited about that. And in addition to that, in Sweden, as you know, we've got operations in Canada, Sweden, and Paraguay. We have now gotten approval to purchase the 32 megawatt data center in Boden. Now, we've actually been operating at this site since 2018, but it was on a long-term municipal lease. So the government owned the land, and we recently got approval. And this is very pivotal because if you're going to invest and build an AI data center on a site, you want to own the land. You don't want to be leasing that land. Why? Because a Bitcoin mine is $1 million a megawatt to build just for construction. A tier 3 data center, 8 to 10 million a megawatt. And by the way, if you install GPUs in there, which is a very involved process now with liquid cooling, it's mechanical, electrical engineering, that's an additional $30 million a megawatt. So this 32 megawatt site in Sweden, in our existing Boden facility, which is a beautiful data center, it's much nicer than a typical crypto mine. We would convert that, and you would end up with what you call 25 megawatts of IT load. So that's the amount of compute that you could install with GPUs. So 25 megawatts times 40 million, that would be $1 billion CapEx for that site. So before you go invest $1 billion, you want to make sure that you own the land. So the big news there is that we own that land. I'd like to think that that will throw off upwards of 40, maybe 45 million a year just on a data center co-location. And if you were to fill it with GPUs and do GPU cloud, it would be tremendous. It would possibly be, 5 times bigger than the cluster that we just announced in the deal with Cohere.
Yeah, and speaking of that other news, it really is, as you mentioned, big news that you talked about a bit earlier, and that is with Cohere. So explain that one to me and behind it. I mean, you got some big names involved in this, Aydin.
Yeah, so HIVE's Buzz has signed a deal for 3 years with Bell and Cohere, where Cohere and Bell will be renting the compute from this large cluster, over 2,000 NVIDIA Grace Blackwell GPUs, for a total contract value of $220 million. So this is our largest GPU cloud contract ever. And what's very exciting is that if you look at that on an annualized basis, Steve, it's a little over 70 million ARR. So 220 million bucks over 3 years, a little over 70 million a year ARR. Well, existing, we already had 35 million ARR. So this rockets us past 100 million ARR on a contracted basis just for our AI business. So we're really, really excited for HIVE's Buzz right now. And that's just on the Cohere side. And if you like, I can actually tie that into what this deal in Sweden looks like on a pro rata basis compared to Cohere.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Because you obviously put them out at the same time because they really will feed off of each other, which is important.
Well, precisely. And so if you were to look at the site in Sweden, it's a 32 megawatt site. Now, the usable power on that would be 25 megawatts. For the actual data center, if we converted Boden into a tier 3, which is the purpose, that's why we bought the land. And as I mentioned, the CapEx, if you did tier 3 construction and you filled it with GPUs, it'd be about $1 billion of CapEx. But what does that get you? What does that get you? Well, I'll just as a comparative basis, this deployment that we have with Bell in the Bell data center with Cohere is 5 megawatts, and that's expected to throw off over 70 million a year. Well, if the site in Sweden was 25 megawatts, it would be 5x that. So it would be 350 million a year, potentially, of ARR if you filled it with GPUs. So the scale of the revenue for these GPU cloud businesses is absolutely massive. Now, all we've done is we've announced that we bought the land. I'm just giving you what that means in terms of potential. Or we might just convert the tier 3 site in Sweden and do what you call co-location, and then we just rent the data center as is, and that would throw off 45 million a year, and you only need to invest about 10 million a megawatt. So there's a lot of exciting upside here, and so I think that Canada, Sweden, and next there might be some updates from Paraguay as well. A lot of fun stuff cooking.
Yeah, and I guess as you mentioned, having ownership of it is the key thing. So you're not having to deal with a lot of things outside of what a normal owner would have. And I guess that's the key to the reason why you did Sweden, and obviously the work that you want to do, which you're doing in Canada already.
Precisely. So we've talked about doing HPC at our New Brunswick site, the 70 megawatt site, because we own that site. The big news a couple of weeks ago was the Gigafactory in Greater Toronto area, 320 megawatts, and we bought 25 acres of land. So strategically, we've been land banking by substations, either expanding our footprint of existing data centers, which we've done in New Brunswick and we've done in Paraguay, or just acquiring new projects altogether, like the Gigafactory site. And so you'll see updates to our earnings presentation of how this will increase our enterprise value, our annual projected revenue. And if you look at, and I think the simplest takeaway today for your viewers is this: all of our peers in this sector are being valued on 2-year forward revenue, because all of this stuff takes time to build and it takes time to build on. This deal with Cohere is very near term. We're really excited. Those GPUs will be deployed. We expect in Q4 of this year, and that's a very near term. A lot of our peers that are building data centers, that revenue is not going to come online for a year or two. So it's going to be a very exciting upside. I think that right now, Hive, with all the capacity that we have online, once it's all contracted, we're a $5 billion US company. And that's just based on all the precedent comps on a more conservative basis. So I would say stay tuned for updates as we announce more deals. Our target is $200 million just on the GPU cloud business. That means the AI part of the business, we're actually selling the GPU compute. We just had 100 million contracted revenue with this Cohere deal. The target for the end of this year is 200 million. So we're well on our way to executing on our promises. And then in addition to that, on the co-location side of the business, which is still in the AI realm, what we're doing is we're building the tier 3 data centers. You're just selling the data center space itself. We've got a target of over almost $500 million of revenue there. So if you add that, plus our GPU cloud business, plus the existing cash flow from the Bitcoin mining, I would say our target, our vision is to hit $1 billion of revenue in the next 2 years as we build out all of these sites.
All right, we'll wait and see. Good stuff. Aydin, thank you so much. Really great to catch up with you, and appreciate your time. I know it's been a long day, and good to have you along. Really exciting news from the company.
Thanks so much, Steve. Always a pleasure.
All right, good with you. Aydin Kilic, he's the CEO of HIVE Digital Technologies.
The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf. It is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, an offer, or a solicitation to buy or sell any securities. Viewers should conduct their own research and consult a qualified financial advisor before making investment decisions. The views expressed are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Proactive Group Holdings, trading as Proactive Investors, or its affiliates. No responsibility is accepted for any loss arising from reliance on the information presented.